Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Friday, September 9th, and once again, our California and Nevada chat. My name is Len Dumas, Executive Director for the Northern California section of the PGA of America, and our chat partners, Mr. Tom Addis, Executive Director and CEO of the Southern California PGA section, Nikki Gatch, Chief Operating Officer, and Jeff Johnson, Chief Financial Officer, and of course, our on-air team, Bryce Seaver, Steve Monday, and Shelby Zell. This morning, we have an incredible lineup. 42nd President of the PGA of America, Mr. Jim Richardson. Jim, thank you for being with us. Shelly Mcgill O'Keefe. Shelly is a member here in Northern California section, a very accomplished athlete in her own right, but not only most recently the caddy, but the sister of Jill Mcgill, winner of the U.S. Seniors Women Open. And of course, Craig Kessler, the Director of Public Affairs for the Southern California Golf Association. There's a lot in the news these days, certainly the passing of Queen Elizabeth. Yesterday, a very sad day in the end of one monarchy and the start of another. And I think as golf does, there's a tremendous pause during the BMW Championship out of respect for the Queen's passing yesterday. We'll talk about these as we go. The heat wave that's currently embracing not only, of course, the West Coast, but so much of the country. The water summits, we had a wonderful water summit in Southern California about 3 weeks ago, and we'll talk about the upcoming event here in Northern California. And then some congratulations to our junior league teams, which we will get to as well. But first, unfortunately, President Eric Lippert of the Northern California section is not able to join us today, but he sends his regards, and certainly from our officers and board of directors, to our partner, Tom Addis. Tom?
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and thanks, Len, and welcome, Shelly and Jim and Craig. Always great to have a great group like this on our once a month on Friday with our chat. So it's pretty cool. Unfortunately, Robin Shelton will not be with us this morning. He's still getting things squared away from their rebuild, their redesign at Newport Beach Country Club, and is quite busy. So that's very understandable. Things are busy, as Len alluded to and talked about. God rest the Queen, for sure. I think one thing that it shows the real inner insides of golf, where the BMW was postponed until Saturday morning due to the Queen's death and respect for the Queen. And one thing that really shows to me is that yesterday afternoon, even after the Queen's passing, that some other athletic events continued on and golf paused. To me, that says a great deal of our game and our business, and congratulations to the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour for that. So I think that's great to experience. Len, thank you. Thanks again to everybody. Thanks to Bryce and Stephen for their continuing with the production of this chat, and look forward to a good hour.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. So we'll go to our first guest, Jim Richardson. Jim is the 42nd President of the PGA of America and also the General Manager of Riviera Country Club. Jim, good morning. Thank you for being here once again. We really appreciate your time. So Jim, let's start with a wonderful event we had on Monday, August 22nd, which was the welcome home at the new headquarters in Frisco. We know that the staff has been in since April, and this was an event that we were in town for the PGA National Committee meetings. But Jim, your take on it, just an amazing, amazing facility, something to be very proud of, and I hope you feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, and thanks, Len and Tom and Nikki and all involved. Thanks for having me on. Shelly and Craig, it's great to be on with you today. It was very exciting, as you said, Len. The new headquarters, the new home of the PGA in Frisco, Texas, just outside of Dallas. I was fortunate to be kind of involved from start to finish with the headquarters, the new home, based on being on the board 6-7 years ago when we first looked at the property as a potential. It's really become amazing to me, I think, how that community has embraced the PGA of America, and they really know who we are. They know the difference between the PGA of America and the PGA Tour. They know what the PGA professionals do on a daily basis, that we are the tangible connection to really everybody that learns and plays the game, that we are the ones running facilities and golf-related companies throughout the country, instilling that passion and pride in the game to juniors, those that are new to the game. So it's really great to see a community embrace, I think, the PGA of America in that way. Those of us that were at the opening for the new home, you saw sports celebrities in Dallas that were there. Jerry Jones and his son Stephen were there. You saw business partners throughout the community that were there, political officials that were there, the mayor, the assistant mayor of the town. There's just a lot of excitement on, I think, what the PGA can bring to that community. It's not just from a business standpoint that we'll have championships that will be there, but they understand that it's going to be our education center, and there'll be men and women coming from throughout the country to Frisco, Texas, for our new state-of-the-art education. We'll have men and women that will be coming throughout the country utilizing the new state-of-the-art teaching and coaching facility. There'll be men and women that will be bringing members, of theirs from clubs throughout the country to visit Frisco and experience the golf courses and the resort that are there. So the town realizes that there's going to be a business aspect, but they also want to help us. They want to be a true partner. And how can that facility better support PGA members around the country and associates around the country to continue to drive the game forward? So it's awesome to see a partner like that quite frankly really took the time to understand what the PGA of America is really all about, to understand what our men and women do on a day-to-day basis to grow the game, and then try to have ways to figure out how they can help us with that. So it's really pretty special, I think, in that regard. And then obviously it's going to be a world-class facility. For those on the call that may not be familiar with it, we have a partner in the local community in the town of Frisco and the Frisco ISD, or the Independent School District. We also have a partner in Omni Hotels, which are based in Dallas. Omni has several hotels and resorts throughout the country. They've got, obviously, in Southern California with La Costa. They're known for some of their golf resorts, but they're really excited about partnering on this project. It'll have two 18-hole golf courses. It'll have a 10-hole lighted par 3 short course. We'll have a 75,000 square foot lighted putting course, 500-room Omni Hotel and Convention Center with all your typical resort amenities, a standalone clubhouse, golf shop, 10 4-bedroom kind of golf villas for those that are traveling with members or traveling as small groups. Obviously, it'll have the PGA's new home. Then also the North Texas PGA's moved their headquarters there as well too. A massive practice facility that will be hosting all kinds of junior programs, the local high school and junior high school systems, and then obviously all the different type of player development that the PGA of America is involved with. So this will be a very high volume, very, very busy, very trafficked area, but also specifically with programs dedicated to PGA members through the Education Center and through the Teaching and Coaching Center. It'll host some of our member championships as well as some of our televised championships, with the first being next May's Kitchenaid Senior PGA Championship. So it's going to have a bit of everything. It's going to be open to the resort guests, open to the public. There'll be programming with the local school systems. There'll be programming through the North Texas PGA and all of their junior programs, a lot of growth of the game, and then some programs through the putting course and the short course to just introduce the community, introduce new players into the game. It's a great onboarding in that scenario versus just stepping foot on a championship golf course. So we're really excited about everything that's involved there, but we're really excited about the partners and really how they're viewing it as how best can they support our mission, which is supporting our members and growing the game. And I really do think with the central hub of this being in the middle of the country, it'll be much easier for members around the country to get to experience, much easier for them to get to and bring members or guests, and much easier for them to participate in some of the events and championships that we have for years to come. And there was a lot of discussions at the board level back 6-7 years ago because this obviously was not just a short-term move. We were going to be moving from Florida to Frisco, Texas. This was going to be, decades, 50, 60, 70, 80 years or more in the making. And would we be able to utilize it in a way that could truly help support the mission of supporting members and growing the game? We think it's going to do that. We really think it's going to become a world-class resort destination, but we also think it's going to become a hub kind of the golf industry. We have manufacturers that want to be a part of it. We've got companies that are involved in the teaching and coaching space want to be part of it. We've got tour players that want to be a part of it. So it's created a lot of excitement, and we need to make sure that we continue to focus on utilizing it in a way that just helps drive our mission. So very excited to have been there on August 22nd with some of you. Very excited on what I think it can deliver to our mission. Just very excited to be able to go back and visit, hopefully in the years to come, and take advantage of it as a PGA member.
Jim, thank you. And, there's, needless to say, so many people involved over so much time, but I would like to call out John Newkirk. There a year ago, a little more than a year ago, he was our player development guru, and all of a sudden he's got the yellow vest and the hard hat on, running the project management at Frisco. So absolutely incredible job by John.
Yeah, there was, really neat thing about that project, right? Your construction project of 106,000 square foot facility, along with how it ties into the golf facilities there. And really those projects were being led by PGA members. And John Newkirk, as you said, is a PGA member that works for the PGA. Jimmy Terry was another gentleman that named PGA member that was involved in the project. And John Easterbrook, as our chief membership officer, as a PGA member. Obviously, as you said, Len, there was a lot of people involved, but really those three were really kind of leading the charge. And as a PGA member, I take a lot of pride that that project was being led by PGA members. And I think those that really have the pulse of, what would be important for PGA members in that facility to make sure it felt like a home, but that it also could really support the mission. So really, really proud of the work that they all did.
And as you mentioned, Jim, I think this is really important too, that it is the home of the North Texas section as well. And they're doing an incredible job building that golf park back there. So I know that Mark is very excited about it, Mark Harrison and his team, for everything. Their junior programming is legendary. And again, another phase of opening up the game in the area to the public. So Jim, a little bit about that and the goals of the North Texas section, just incredible.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Lynn. I failed to mention, that PGA Frisco and the new home really came because of an idea from North Texas PGA. They were looking to potentially move their headquarters somewhere in the Dallas area, but they had this concept of building a kind of urban golf park, or a golf park with a 9-hole facility and a large practice facility, or maybe a short course and a practice facility, to really help drive their junior programming and player development. And as they had discussions with several different towns in and around the Dallas area, Frisco really stood out. They were very interested in that concept. And pretty early on in those discussions with the North Texas PGA, they inquired, hey, let's think a little bigger. Like, what would we need to do as a town to attract the PGA Championship? And obviously you couldn't do that at a smaller urban type of facility or a smaller 9-hole facility. And so they got some individuals involved, Kerry Haig and Seth Waugh and others from our headquarters. And those discussions kind of led into, it just so happened at the same time we were looking at a potential move of the offices at that time in Florida, possibly just a location close by where it was in Palm Beach Gardens, but also we took it out to RFP to other cities around the country. So Frisco then got in that mix, and it clearly became clear pretty quickly that Frisco was very, very serious about being a true partner for a world-class facility. And then it led to where we were on August 22nd with the grand opening. But we owe a lot of it because the North Texas PGA had an idea. They had gotten in discussions with the town of Frisco and officials there, and then got PGA nationally involved, and it led to the partnership that we now have in PGA Frisco. So it's great that they're kind of able to be a part of it by moving their headquarters. They'll have their own building, their own headquarters, their own programming, but obviously we'll do a lot of things in concert and partnership. So as you said, they have probably one of the largest junior programs in the country, a lot of different levels of programming, a lot of different levels of tours, from beginner to the very advanced junior player. So it's great to see them being included in it as well too. They'll now have a facility that will even be able to grow those programs even larger than what they've done over the last 10, 20, 30 years.
So, Jim, thank you. A little bit about the building itself, which is just incredible. So I'd urge all members to make a trip to Frisco to see the facility, and also take an associate with you. Take some board of directors, take some board members with you, take some club members with you when the courses are open next year. Just an incredible facility, and something to be grateful for all the work that's gone on. So, Jim, the building itself, we've got the hitting bays. There's a media studio being built, but it's more than there's a bunker inside. So we have an all-weather facility. I believe on the third floor are the staff offices, and the fourth floor is for entertaining, if you will, with just an incredible view of the whole property. So it's more than just an educational building, right? It's pretty much conference center. It's our home. It's a place to make everybody feel welcome and really learn about what the PGA of America is all about.
Yeah, no question. It was built specifically to be interactive. That there's a lot of interactive portions to it. You know, if you're interested in finding a family member or a good friend that was a PGA member, there's areas that you can, from electronically, you can pull them up and a little bit about their careers, even on yourself, or about the section that you work in. You know, if you're a new associate going through the education program to become a PGA member, a lot of interactive portions to it, as you said, Glenn, with the education center there. Part of that obviously is teaching and coaching. So we do have hitting bays that are indoors that hit out to the practice facility, that portion of the driving range. We've got an inside putting green and inside bunker. You short game, as you said, with the weather. Texas, like a lot of places, has the different seasons. So we wanted to be indoor and outdoor. There is an area on the fourth floor that's really kind of a boardroom for bigger meetings or other meetings, but also can be easily converted into kind of hospitality when there's championships that are going on, or other functions that potentially you might be able to utilize with say a large partner like a Titleist or a TaylorMade or a Ping, or a club car in that nature if they wanted to have certain meetings. Also, there's, our new kind of a Hall of Fame has been converted in part of that building as well too. There's a beautiful outdoor Hall of Fame garden with all the Hall of Fame names, where those types of programs will take place in the future with Hall of Fame inductions. And then obviously it's walking distance to what they will call the district, which is the commercial aspect of the whole property, which will have several restaurants, some golf themed retail outlets, Top Golf will be there, things of that nature. So it's great interaction for those that are in the community, very interactive for associates that are going there through education, very interactive aspects if you're a PGA member that's going down to utilize it as well too. So we wanted it to be more than just a building. We did want it to be very, very interactive, and some aspects that made you feel very, very comfortable, and hence, the feeling that you were, as a PGA member, it was kind of a second home for you.
So, Jim, we, as you mentioned, we have the Kitchenaid Senior Open as our first event, the first inaugural event, if you will. I also believe that the Junior League Championships are moving to HQ next year, starting in 23, one more year at Greyhawk. I know, Jim, the year I escapes me, there's a PGA Championship on the calendar. So I think the only one that's not there at the moment is the Ryder Cup. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, Lynn, we've got 26 championships that'll be slated there in the next 15 years. 2 KitchenAid Senior PGA Championships, 2 KPMG Women's PGA Championships, 2 PGA Championships, as well as you said, we've got the PGA Junior League moving there. We'll have our National Assistants Championship, National Players Championship, National Senior PGA Championship, our Boys and Girls Championship there. So you name it, we'll have those events there over the next 15 years. And the community, obviously, like many others, would love to host a Ryder Cup. It's something that is the potential in the future, but that is not under contract. We are out a few years on the Ryder Cup, so there's no urgency or rush there. And we want to make sure we also give Carrie Haig, our Chief Championships Officer, who's the best in the business, and staff, the time to actually operate a couple of championships there and work out a few bugs. And but it's a possibility in the future. I think the property sets up very, very well to host big crowds and big championships. From a traffic and parking and a flow standpoint, it's ideally located. And obviously the community supports sporting events, and they really want to get behind the new PGA of America. home and some of the championships that will be there. So I think it's going to be a facility you'll see a lot of championships over the next 2, 3, 4 decades. But we already have a list of them slated over the next 15 years. And we're very excited for those to start next May.
Yeah, thank you, Jimmy. And thanks for not saying what Ryder Cup year is next, because I know we're into the 40s and the 50s almost in some cases. So Jim,
Actually, we're only up through 37, so we haven't gotten
37. Okay, so the next one would be 41. Ouch. Okay. Comment from our own Nick Bailey. Really an awesome time for PGA members. Can't wait to visit. Thank you, Nick. And a question from the Mr. Holbert himself. Hi, Jim. Could you talk a little bit about the staff transition from Florida to Frisco? Will some staff remain, and what will happen to the 2 buildings there? Thanks, Bill Holbert.
Yeah, Bill, good morning. Thanks for the question. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, we've got, I may not have the exact numbers, but we have roughly about 120 employees that are already working out of PGA Frisco that have relocated to that area. We do have some that are still in the Palm Beach Gardens office. We have that transition plan over the next few years. And then we have obviously people in the field. We're getting ready to roll out a new regional support model, which we have more people, player development, career services, and others that are in the field. And we have some other individuals on our championship side with Carrie Haig, obviously at different host facilities that are working in the field. I believe we have all told about 80 or 90 in the field to those different endeavors. We have about 120 that are in Frisco today. And then we have 70 or 80 in that range that are in Florida with a transition plan over the next few years to get as many of those individuals over to Frisco. And then what's a little bit up in the air is the regional rollout model. We've got that slated with people in the field, but the way that we've structured that as well too is a lot of interaction with executive directors, where there's some positions I think that will be in every kind of region, helping those sections and districts. But as we well know, sections and areas of the country have very specific needs. So we might have 1 or 2 people in a certain role, whether it be in more in player development and career services in one area of the country, and then maybe more in finance and HR in another set of the country. So we may see a few more people out in the field as we get into the regional rollout over the next couple of years. But yeah, right now, currently we have about 80 or 90 all told that are in the field, about 120 in Frisco, and about 70 or 80 that are in Florida. The transitions plans over the next few years to Frisco.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, Len, I would like to echo your thoughts, and Jim too, on really the headquarters being a place to visit. We all, as a PGA member, look forward to Augusta and a Ryder Cup and a PGA Championship, but add the headquarters in Frisco to your bucket list. It's really special. The facilities and the golf courses are extraordinary, and I think it will be something that you'll really enjoy. And to make Nikki happy, a stay at the Star, next to the Star, in the Omni there. Nothing against the Omni at the facility, but because that's going to be gorgeous. But there's so much to see in Frisco, and I just urge you to take a trip down there. Jim, I know you're winding down, and you have about a couple of month and a half to go in your presidency, and we appreciate what you've done. You've been exceptional. You've proved a lot of things. You listen, you have compassion and care. And what's great about that is when you listen and with your compassion and care, you act, and you act to the best interest to everyone in the PGA and the PGA world. So I just wanted to thank you for that, and publicly thank you for that. You've been marvelous, and you've been wonderful, and you've been a terrific president. So congratulations, and enjoy the next month and a half, and enjoy your outgoing. So thanks for everything that you've done.
Well, Tom, very nice of you to say. My check is in the mail to you for those next comments. But,
Yeah.
One thing I failed to mention, just for those that may not know all the details of PGA Frisco, although our new home and headquarters is now officially open, the facility itself won't open until next April. So if you are in the Dallas area, as Tom said, please go visit. I think you'll really be impressed. But as far as the golf courses, short course, all the amenities in the hotel, they're not slated to open until April of next year. So don't want you to plan a golf trip with it not being open in the Dallas area, expecting to go there. But we will have it all open next April, and we look forward to having as many PGA members there in the future as possible. So thank you.
Yeah, Jim, thank you so much. And as Tom mentioned, you became president as we were still in COVID and came out to a different world, a different industry, a different way to go about things, a different approach to our member services. And as you mentioned, the rollout of the regional model now. So it's been nothing but growth. And then, as we say, you've done an incredible job. I'm sure it was a very fast 2 years, sometimes moving slowly, sometimes pedal to the metal. But Jim, thank you. We're thrilled to have you, in the D11 family just down the street, a little bit from us here. But thank you for everything that you've done and continued success.
Very nice of you. And I will say you get a new appreciation for past presidents and everything that they went through during their term. So huge amount of gratitude and thanks to Mr. Addis as well as the other past presidents. Huge amount of gratitude to the 41 executive directors and staffs for all the work that they do. So just very, very humble and thankful to be able to be in a role to potentially represent PGA members, but really thank everybody for all the work and everything that they do on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you, Jim. And obviously we'll stay close. It's great having you here in California with us. So again, best to you and the family. You're welcome to stay as we talk to Shelly and Craig, and onward we go. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
So our next guest is Shelly Mcgill O'Keefe. Shelly has been a PGA member since 2011, and pretty much known Shelly about that as long as that time, and has just been instrumental in the growth of junior golf and development of the U.S. Kids Tour here in Northern California. A very accomplished athlete as well, in a winter sport, and we'll cover that. So she and again, a hero, also very important, a hero in overcoming some personal challenges. So Shelly, welcome. And let's start at the high level, and then we'll kind of fill in. But just the whole experience of being with Jill, not only being on the bag, of course, but being her sister and going through her journey and your journeys together just almost has to be overwhelming.
I actually am still speechless. So I can't really explain the emotions that I'm feeling, for her. You can see it's still raw, right? So just when you bring it up that way, just the whole intention for that week was just to spend time together. As we all know, that's definitely a commodity, right? So, and having gone through what I went through last year, it definitely brings it right in front, of your face and your family's faces. And so, yeah, it was just an incredible experience.
So Shelly, let's start. You and I have talked about it, but not everybody knows that you were a world-class skier. So let's talk a little bit about how that started and how you ultimately became a PGA member.
That's a long story, actually. It's kind of a crazy story. I actually was a soccer player, funny enough, first. And I played soccer in college, but I was also a skier. I grew up in Colorado. I was an alpine racer. And then after college, I just fell in love with the moguls and figured out that there was an event for mogul skiing. And so I moved up to Winter Park and joined the local team, and then qualified to be on the U.S. development team the following year. And then I was on the World Cup team the year after that. And that was it. So I would start, I would kind of caddy for my sister during my off season. And I learned how to play the game of golf through caddying for her. I didn't know how to actually swing the golf club, but I started to really understand the course management aspect and the strategy and how it's really a game of chess, and was really kicking myself for not playing as a junior golfer because I grew up on the 14th fairway of Cherry Hills. I mean, who doesn't play golf that grows up there, right? So yeah, that's how it all started. And then I was badly injured going into Salt Lake, which was going to be my Olympic year. And I spent 9 months at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, and I would literally go hit golf balls in between therapy sessions to stay out of the cafeteria, because I counted one day, there's 22 different types of desserts in there. So it was just really trying to maintain my weight, plus, just the physical fitness by, hitting golf balls. Plus it was very entertaining. So that's how I started.
Well, we're glad you did, Shelly. That's for sure. So again, we'll probably jump around a little bit, but a little bit about, Jill's had a great career, having won other events as well and on the PGA Tour. So how did you two just talk about, the caddy player experience? That's one. It's a conversation that's very important, but it's a little different when it's a family member as well. Sometimes I'm sure there's some tough love involved.
It is really interesting, because having not grown up in the game, and she knew that I didn't grow up in the game. I think years ago, I don't know that she gave me enough credit to be able to contribute, right? But then I think, having been in golf for as many years as I have and teaching, and we've been able to collaborate the last couple of years since she has started teaching, which has been fun. I think she has started to kind of trust my judgment, I guess, out on the golf course. And we really had to discuss what our game plan was prior. And my job was just to kind of pull her back into that game plan when she would get sidetracked a little bit. But yes, I mean, I think that there's some emotional tie in there, because sometimes when the wheels start falling off, you have I don't know, you can't help, and you just so want to help them. And, I would feel that when I would caddy for her during the summer. And during this week, the past week, she and I disagreed on hole number 13. One of the days, I think it was the second day, I wanted her to hit less club and land it short of the green and let it roll up. And she finally said to me, she said, look, if you feel strongly about something, let me know. And so that gave me the green light to really kind of interject my thoughts and really participate at that point.
And Shelly, is it correct and true that Jill did not know on 18 green that she was the leader and was ready to put out, and yourself and Annika even stopped her to give her the stage?
That is correct. So I found out walking from the 14th green to the 14th green to the 15th green. So I had several marshals who were signaling to me. They're like, you're in first. And I'm signaling back, I don't want to know. But then the USGA official walked up and he said, hey, just to give you a heads up, you guys are 3 strokes ahead. You want me to let Jill know where she stands? And I said, no, I appreciate it, but that was part of the game plan, is not actually concerning ourselves with the score or what the leaderboard was doing. She really, really wanted to just have fun. And then she just wanted to take one shot at a time and do the best that she could on that shot. And whatever happened, happened. She's, kept telling herself, I've done the work. So just let it go, just be in the flow of things, be in the moment. And then she just really wanted to accept whatever the golf course gave her, because going into the stretch, she hit some incredible shots, but was not given the benefit of those shots. And so, I have to hand it to both Annika and Mike. I mean, Mike was amazing. He asked me on the 15th tee box, he goes, do you know what's happening? And I said, yes. He goes, do you want me to let Jill know? And I said, no, she doesn't want to know. And I don't know for sure, but I suspect that he then had conversations with a lot of our walking marshals, because they all knew at that point that we did not want to know, or that we didn't want Jill to know. So yeah, I mean, it was incredible how they all kind of just circled around her and kind of protected her and kept her in that game plan, So Jill said it best, that they were not rooting against anybody else, but they genuinely really wanted to see her do well, and come into the finish strong. So that was pretty exciting.
That's amazing. And as we talked about when we came on, the air, if you will. Shelly, that's what golf is, right? It's an opponent, it's a fellow competitor, but we're cheering for them, we're rooting for them. And it
Correct.
happens all the time. And at that level, just another credit to the great game of golf.
Yeah, it was really interesting. That night we actually watched that it was on, I think, Golf Channel later that evening. And we did watch it. It was really interesting. We had, a couple of golfers that were having pizza with us afterwards. And when they watched, or when it came time to watch Laura Davies, they all went out of the room. They did not want to watch that happen, even though they already knew it happened. So that was kind of an interesting reaction. They genuinely felt really bad for her, but in the same time, were elated for Jill. So it was interesting to see those dynamics.
Great. Well, Shelly, congratulations. Now let's turn a little bit. And as I mentioned, you are just such a leader in junior golf here in Northern California. I can't think of a player or parent that doesn't know you and speak the world of you with all the work that you've done in the Valley, in the city, in Monterey with the U.S. Kids Store. So please talk about, first off, thank you for that. And thank you for an opportunity to assist periodically as well. So talk about that, Shelly, the growth of the program and just your passion for
it. Funny enough, it actually started in Northern Texas. I was an apprentice in Northern Texas, and a lot of my ideas started from the Northern Texas PGA. So it was interesting how it's kind of come full cycle, right? So I started with the junior programs at just the local club level, and my kids really wanted to play in some events, but because of our geographical location and the way that our highway system is set up, they didn't want to go over to the Bay Area because if the Ultimate Pass had a crash, or they didn't want to go to Sacramento because if there was a crash on 5 or 99. And so that's really kind of how I started with the US Kids, and called them, just reached out to them and asked if we could start a tour, and they weren't ready for it yet, at the year that I started. And then they called me back the next year and asked if I would be interested because we were starting to fill up on both of those tours. And that's really kind of how it started, was just trying to find a place for the kids that were in my junior program. And then the PGA Junior League, can't say enough about that. I mean, it's just such an incredible program. I had incredible experiences with, all the various teams and the different leagues. And I can't believe how much work is done behind the scenes. Nikki, I think, you were instrumental in organizing a lot of that in California, when we were first starting. So I really appreciate you and everything that you've done. And drive, chip, and putt. I mean, so the support that the professionals, the PGA professionals get in our state from Northern Cal all the way down to Southern Cal is just incredible. So just a huge thank you to actually making these programs possible for all of us.
Shelly, what's next? What's next with the junior tours? And again, we mentioned it earlier, you are a hero. You've overcome tremendous health challenges for yourself in the past year, the past 18 months. And what's next? You've got a long way to go, and we're still watching you and learning from you.
Well, I think so, I guess back to the whole health issue. For those of you that don't know, I actually was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in February of 2021. If anyone wants more details on that, I'm happy to share, because I think it's really important to get that information out, the signs and some of the stuff to look for for it to be caught at an early stage. Not to be grim, but it is the #1 gynecological killer of women. It beats breast cancer. There is not a screen test. So all of you husbands, partners, and PGA female professionals, the pap smear is only a detector for cervical cancer. So make sure you guys are getting checked and paying attention. So I won't go into details with that, but if you do want details, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to give them. Because of that, I have actually stepped back at Spring Creek Golf and Country Club. They've been just phenomenal. I mean, just incredible through this entire process, and extremely supportive, and I can't, to be honest with you, tell you how I just can't even express how grateful I am to be a part of the Northern Cal PGA and San Joaquin. Well, not even just San Joaquin. I mean, I can't even tell you how many people have reached out to me, and the support. And when all of this happened, how many people stepped in to run my golf tournaments and my golf programs, and they just kept them going, right? They would run with it. They would call me, I would be in bed. I just had chemo, and they would call me to let me know how things were going. And then they wouldn't let me know, like, all the details. You need to rest, you need to rest. So, I mean, but everyone, Joe Smith, Shay Rollins, all of the assistant pros at Spring Creek, I mean, the entire chapter just really stepped in. Jeff Palmer, just to kind of take over. And I can't express, I had a friend who told me, right now you're saying F you, F you, F you to cancer. And at some point you'll say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's a really weird position to be in, because it is actually, I'm at that point, these experiences would not have happened had I not gone through that. And I'm overcome with emotion at the moment. I'm so sorry. And just to be able to be here and to thank everybody for all of their support is just huge. And so you asked me what's next. I'm going to take a step back from running junior programs so I can focus on just really detoxing my body from the chemo and really focusing on nutrition to help prevent it from reoccurring. And then I'm just going to stick with the U.S. Kids golf tours right now, because not knowingly, I accidentally picked up San Francisco. So that was kind of interesting. I don't really remember the conversations, because it all happened during that time that I was dealing with chemo and surgery and stuff like that. So I've got 3 different tours running. Super excited about those. They're all on a wait list. So the junior golf is really growing, which is exciting. We had our first inaugural Girls Invitational at Moffett Field this past weekend. Len, you were a part of that, so thank you so much. So many comments, compliments coming back, especially for the big break glass event that we did. I apologize, my nose is running. So that was exciting. We had 150 girls registered, and I think 138 participated when all was said and done. It was the first Girls Invitational that they've had on the West Coast. They did the East Coast the week before. All of these girls had to qualify. It was ages 5 to 18. Our girls 7 and under had the hole-in-one. It was super exciting. It's just so much fun to just watch, the development of these kids and how excited, and how sports are really starting to play a huge part in their lives and actually shape and form them as humans.
Shelly, thank you. Thank you for all that you've done, coming through with such a great attitude and teaching us about things that we go through in life, and the continued success of yourself. Get healthy, keep getting healthy, keep staying in touch as we do. And we look forward to seeing you on tour. We look forward to seeing you on the Junior League trail. We'll look forward to seeing you on Drive, Chip, and Putt. And we look forward to seeing you at our annual meeting in December. Don't forget. That.
I won't.
Yeah. Thank you,
You'll
Shelly.
have to remind me.
I will. I shall. Promise. Thank you, Shelly.
Thanks, Shelly, and good luck.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, on to our Director of Public Affairs for the Southern California Golf Association, Craig Kessler. Craig, as we talked about, we had, we'll start with the Water Summit. That was about 2 or 3 weeks ago at Chino Hills in Southern California. And interestingly enough, this morning or last night, we see a report about a storm coming through with a lot of water. But let's start with the summit. Craig, thanks for that. Thanks for being part of developing it. Thanks for hosting. So the ideas that went into it and the goals that came out of it.
Well, Len, if you'll indulge me for a moment, just a couple of quick items. Because I sit along with Tom Addis on the PGA of America's Government Relations Committee, I was also in Frisco, along with you and many others, for seeing the new headquarters and the tour and the opening ceremony. And I want to assure everyone who's on this call that President Richardson did not overstate just how spectacular a facility that is. I would encourage everyone to go see it. I'm glad he mentioned that the golf courses don't open till April, because I can just imagine that golf professionals do want to play golf when they visit the headquarters. Second quick item, I see that Nick Bailey, who I've never met, is on this call. And good news travels fast, Nick. I understand while I was busy with the high-low chapter of GCSA last night, raising money for turf research, which is extremely important, and we'll get to that in a moment. I understand that you put on really a spectacular defense of the social utility and environmental utility of golf in Cupertino, California. And I used to live in that area, so I've actually played Blackberry Farms. So this is just a way of communicating over the chat here today. I want to get in touch with you and talk with you a little bit, because this is not the first time that you've taken on a responsibility like this, but the second time. And so my hat is off to you, because again, you've shown that PGA professionals, GMs in their local communities can oftentimes be the best persons on the ground. Not a guy like me, maybe even not Len, but the best persons on the ground for really telling the story of the community. Thank you, and look me up and let's get together later. Well, Len, thank you. You flew down for our golf and water summit in Southern California. And let me explain for a moment. We initially had conversations with the USGA Green section. We had these ambitions at the SCGA. We want, coming out of COVID and now having the opportunity to actually meet in person for the first time in a couple of years, wanted to really put the focus on golf and water. But we wanted to do it in a different way. We've seen many of these kinds of conferences where we talk to each other, and oftentimes, everyone who's assembled in the room understands the record about golf's use of water, understands golf's social utility in the communities in which golf courses are located. But we wanted to communicate beyond that to the so we wanted to make sure that audience, it turns out about half of it was full of water conservation managers. I knew them because I'm working with them in a lot of golf facilities in Southern California as I'm talking right now. It was made up of government leaders, all kinds of persons. It was made up of those who service the golf industry, but a little bit more tangentially, and they may not be in the irrigation realm, but they are dependent upon the success of golf in order for their own businesses to be successful, at least to some small measure. So that was the number one mark. We wanted to fill that room. It turns out we had about 230 persons, and we wanted half of them to be golf, to learn something, never hurts to be educated, but to have the other half be non-golf so that we can make a statement to media, get some coverage, but get coverage of what was the essential thing. And I've boiled it down as follows for some really good media accounts we got in Golf Week earlier this week, in the Desert Sun on the front page on Monday, and in a few other, and admittedly in some of the industry publications. But as those come out, traditional normative or non-golf media read them, and they follow up as well. And those follow-ups tend to be a little bit more of our story than our story told by us, than our story perhaps told by those who don't often understand us and, quite honestly, don't much care for us. I deal with that every day. So, and that message was this: as much as golf has done in the last 20, 25 years to reduce its water footprint, and it has done a great deal and should rightfully trumpet that to the world and be proud of it, we are working every day cooperatively and collaboratively with our regulators, mostly on the ground in public utilities and water districts, but also at a larger level with the Metropolitan Water District. Everyone in Southern California will note that they are the purchaser of the imported water that we thrive on from the Sierra Snowpack and the Colorado River Basin for 19 million Southern Californians. So they sell to roughly 26 to 28 retailers, and the retailers are the ones we deal with on a daily basis. But we wanted them to understand we're working collaboratively because we share a common goal of continuing to reduce that water footprint, not just as a do-good thing. Yes, it's the right thing to do in communities, but as a survival technique, because we understand, and we want the world to understand, that we recognize that a continued trajectory of reducing that water footprint, whether it's moving from cool season grasses to warm season grasses, removing turf, relining lakes, removing superfluous and non-functional water features, deficit irrigation, all kinds of techniques in the investments. As I said yesterday, I was in the desert where it was a little warm and muggy, helping to generate funds for research, which the SCGA supports, not just with its mouth, but with its pocketbook, to come up with a lot of those techniques and a lot of those technologies that will continue to allow us to reduce that water footprint. But we're going to have to go a little farther and a little faster in those regards. And we understand that because we think, and I'm preaching to the converted on this call, golf's a great game at every one of its levels. And we want to continue to provide that in California. And we're in league with environmentalists and park enthusiasts and open space enthusiasts and sports enthusiasts. And golf is no different. Quality of life in a climate in which, for golf, we have practically 365 days a year to play. It's important to keep providing, and water is the lifeblood of that provision. But one of the reasons that we sort of proud that in the marks we were hitting for the Southern California Summit was to be sort of in partnership, and we genuinely were in partnership with that Metropolitan Water District. We had Devin Upadhyay, who is the chief operating officer, and as it turns out, they're negotiator with the other 7 states in the Colorado Basin, and I'll get to that in a moment, on recalibrating the allocation, which is not going to be good news for California, but it's the reality. And then we used a closing panel of 3 senior administrators within the Metropolitan Water District to make clear when we talk about that cooperation and collaboration in California, not only, those aren't just mere words, but we actually do that. And the fact that Devin was our keynote speaker, I think, was testament to that particular proposition, that is our commitment. But I think there's something else that I've written about, and I've said in the many talks I give before. It can be before chapters of PGA sections, it can be before GCSA chapters, it can be before clubs in the Southern California Golf Association, sometimes individuals, sometimes in geographical groupings. I like to quote the general manager of the Metropolitan Water District, Adil Haji Khalil, who has worked for years. I met him years ago when he was with the City of Los Angeles's Bureau of Sanitation, and he was the key contact person for recycling efforts. And he gives a great stump speech, which I think echoes what we in the golf community understand ought to be our stump speech, that while conservation is and will continue to be a key tool in the toolbox of coping with what we understand now are the consequences of a warming and drying climate, which is warming and drying faster than we understood. We thought the conditions that are now seem to be prevailing in 2022 would hold off until probably sometime in the 2030s, giving us more opportunity to cope with them. But it turns out we may indeed be right. This may be a spike, it may not. Predicting the weather is a tough thing. Predicting long-term patterns by extrapolation is a little bit easier, but recognize that uncertainty is still the key principle that governs that. But as we're working, to cope with this, conservation is a key tool. But if it's the only tool in the toolbox, California fails because we simply, you can't keep cutting 30% off, 30% off, 30%. I can say, as someone who has a pretty good idea of just different golf facilities in different regions or in different places in the conservation game. Some areas still have a lot of cards to play in terms of switching grasses, removing turf, and doing various other things. Other places, and looking at the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles, which is under severe restrictions at the moment and can really use that rain, that inch of rain that may fall from a cyclone that's is going to make its way all the way up into Los Angeles. isn't going to break our drought and it's not going to refill our aquifers, but it might allow some of those courses to meet their very stringent budgets that they're under right now, without violation in September. That's literally where we stand. And let me suggest other parts of Southern California are going to be there sooner than later. And I think parts of Central and Northern California are looking at the same thing. Those who've been around as long as I do understand that these droughts or spikes in the drought tend to start in different places. I can remember all the way back to the late 70s when I lived in Northern California. It was very much a phenomenon of the North, not of the South. And that's flipped every time. And this one's beginning in certain areas of the South, but it's going to spread throughout. So in understanding that what we recognize is I'm going to quote Adel Haja Khalil. There have to be other tools in those toolboxes that allow us to restore, to up the amount of water we're able to capture from Mother Nature in ways different than tapping the snowpack in the Colorado Basin or the snowpack in the Sierra Nevada, because it's simply not there anymore. You can build traditional reservoirs, but if you don't have a source to fill them, what have you done except build something that of no use to you in the tough years, although we still have a couple in the pipeline that will help us. So all of those storage techniques of what I would call of the 21st century, whether it's and LA County has begun down that road with the voter passed by 71% Measure W in the 2018 election. We taxed ourselves here to begin capturing the stormwater that increasingly falls in deluges and atmospheric rivers and then goes out to the Pacific Ocean. We're able to capture it, clean it, use it to recharge aquifers, use it for potable reuse and for various other types of reuse and all of those things. So we're probably on the cusp of a repetition of what we did here in California in the first 60, 65 years of the 20th century, was make massive investments in the infrastructure necessary to keep all those things about California life, economic and recreational and open space, and all those things that deal with the quality. It made it possible for us to grow to 40 million. And now we're seeing, and I don't think it's any accident, there are other parts of the country, of America that I think really should serve as warnings to us of what happens if a certain process gets underway and then redoubles itself in sort of a vicious sort of circle loop of decline. I'm thinking of places like Detroit and Cleveland, which literally have half the populations they had 50 years ago, for reasons having nothing to do with climate or water and everything to do with economics. But the same thing here, without the water, without that, the economics begin to crash, and it plays a role in some of the problems and some of the issues that we have right now. We tend to focus on the housing costs as causing a slight decline in our population for the first time in the history of the state. But much of that is related to the costs of doing the housing, the water sources, and various other things. And no sector, I think, understands that relationship more than golf, which is a water-dependent industry, which has been faced for a long time with water costs that have long been rising multiples of any credible measure of the consumer price index. And that's something that's going to continue as far as the eye can see. And the degree to which ratepayers disproportionately pay for the infrastructure necessary to sort of fund that next great burst in California investments in water supply infrastructure. Again, you can see, it's not hard to connect those dots and realize the pressures that we'll be under. And with all of that is really a prelude to this particular audience to understand that everything I've just explained, whether it's the goals we set for a water summit, and I was on a call yesterday, and I think you're going to have a great water summit in Northern California in early December as well. I'd encourage you, those of you in the call who are in the northern section, to plan for that and attend it. You'll be getting notices soon. But that's just one day. And I'm glad we hit the marks in Southern California, hit all the marks I set for it. But those marks are all a longer term strategy in awakening the world to our record and our commitment, but also awakening ourselves that as a sector which had real strong tailwinds, I'll put it in a golf context, for much of our history. And the way we did things and the way we have a culture of leadership that understands the way we did things served us so well for so long that often golf is in the position, that worst position in human affairs, where all the things that served us so well and that we've imbibed, that we've taken into our very souls as leaders in the golf community, are things that no longer serve us particularly well. So the most toughest thing in human affairs is to recognize that yesterday's solution may well be today's problem. And today's solution may require unwinding some of yesterday's solutions that work so well for us and moving to a future that's uncertain, and we'll just have to use our best judgments to come to terms. I see evidence that golf has been coming to terms with this, and we've been helped by a little COVID bump in the last couple of years. So luck and chance play a role in everything. Sometimes you get bad luck, and we got some bad luck there after the year 2000 in golf. We got, it's really in bad taste to say that a pandemic was good luck, but in essence, boiled down to its economic essence, that turned out to be a boon to the golf community. And I think and if nothing more, even to the non-golf community, it explained why golf has been a popular game for 600 years. And I think 600 years from now, it will still be a popular game because it provides certain things that other things cannot do. And it wasn't just a case of golf being, we could play it safely in a pandemic. It got people out there to do it. And then, whereas a lot of other sectors, you can read the business pages, and a lot of industries that ramped up are now laying people off and cutting costs. But golf is holding, we're not going to hold all of that COVID boom, but we're holding most of it. And I think the reason for that is there's an element, whether it's people who used to golf more, who suddenly golf more during a pandemic because they couldn't do other things, or it's persons who took it up. I've heard this story many times. They never considered golf, and then that's the only thing they could do, so they went out and did it, and they fell in love with it. And sometimes an audience like this, those of us who spend a lot of time in the golf community, all of you who are professionals or GMs, sort of take it for granted that everyone loves golf because every day you're surrounded by people who love golf. More persons have been introduced to it, and they discovered that even though they may have not thought much of it before, they love golf. So that's a piece of good news, but reconciling all of that with these challenges that go directly to some factors in the climate, in the environment, and with water will become key. The last thing I'll share with you is I've been also encouraged as someone who's on the front line with regulators, with public utilities, and admittedly all in the southern part of the state where we have long sort of worked hard to develop real good working relationships with, that suddenly they're beginning to recognize what we understood a long time ago, that in those areas that have reduced their water footprints, in some cases in Los Angeles, as much as 45% since the year 2000. That's remarkable performance. But if you keep cutting them, in essence, you're going to put them out of business. And at the same time, you're going to put sports fields out of business and parks out of business and a whole host of things that go to the very essence of the quality of life in California. And the quality of life is related to the quality of the economy, which is everyone's capacity to earn a living and for everything to grow and move forward, that they're beginning to realize that some of the old models of just cut are not going to work for this sector, technically called special landscapes. So I'm encouraged that we're opening up dialogues with them to try to approach it in a slightly different way, to recognize that once you've played all the cards and while at the same time investing in the research necessary to create new cards, it's a process that slows. It's like everything at the after a booming business and a booming sector, and then you hit a recession, you discover that you've in the good times you were spending money that you probably shouldn't have spent, but you did because you could. But that begins to play itself out as things begin to rebound. And I think we're in a parallel position. And if nothing else, what I've tried to share with you without sharing any particular specifics, I trust you've noticed that. There have been no charts, no graphs, no numbers. I think everyone on this call understands that if we have a fourth and even worse, a fifth year like the last three, this whole state's in trouble. Let's cross our fingers and hope for better, but we have no control over that. But what we do have control over is genuine long-term thinking, which develops strategies. And just as the Water Summit in Southern California was a successful day that was in sync with a set of tactics that we adopted some time ago in pursuit of a long-term strategy that we think will get us from where we are to where we need to be to continue to be 1,000 or perhaps with any luck more golf courses in California 10 or 15 or 20 years from now. And we need to begin thinking that way. And sometimes, and everyone on this call has day-to-day responsibilities, and there are payrolls to meet, and there are boards to keep happy. If you're the management companies, there's the next quarter, and some of them are publicly traded now, and you have to come to all that. But at some point, and that's why I encourage, whether it's the USGA or the PGA of America or the NGCOA, you can go through the alphabet soup of leadership organizations. They have to be the leaders in getting us to the strategic long-term thinking that has something other than next Tuesday as our long-range goals. Because I get a glimpse, not just in the advocacy realm where so many other sectors are ahead of us, but also even in the business realm, where again, it's almost as if our biggest problem is how successfully we were for so long, and it's hard to get away from some of those practices. And sometimes it's hard to recognize that some of your good fortune is always just good luck. It's nothing that we did, it's just good luck. And sometimes the things that befall you are just bad luck. But that's part of the uncertainty of not really knowing, which is the principle in my mind that sort of suffuses everything. So I apologize a little bit if you were looking for something a little more specific or granular, but I wanted to leave you with the necessity that when you get the time, away from your main duties every day, think a little bit, go to your section meetings, chapter meetings, whatever, and encourage your leadership organizations to think long range, to think in terms of, and again, we're in the Southwest where water becomes a critical issue, but it's a little bit that Jim Richardson shared on this call. The PGA of America didn't end up with what I called a spectacular site. I can't say enough good things about it, because they thought that was probably a lot more years in the thinking and the making and the planning and the developing than even I can imagine. And then even I thought I heard Jim say, and even it went a little faster than they imagined because the pieces started to come together quickly. And by the way, that's been my experience many times in the world of advocacy, where I've started down a road that I thought was going to be really long and hard. They're usually hard, but sometimes an event breaks your way. But you have to be looking for that break and take advantage of it, or you will miss it oftentimes. So I think the PGA took advantage of whatever breaks it might have gotten in Frisco, Texas, and my hat is off. We need to translate a little bit of that kind of thinking to some of those challenges we know, whether it's water access and cost, some of the labor issues that trouble the game, or any of the issues, and begin to move up the chain and think strategically. And so with that all over the map presentation that may have even confused the guy in some places who was giving it, I'm going to yield the floor back to you, Len, and see whether I have actually covered what you asked me to cover. I think I did. That doesn't always happen on these telecasts. I know that, but I may have done it. And by the way, I said this before we went on, I love the pink shirt.
Thank you, Craig. And you absolutely did, and to an incredible detail, as you always do. So as Craig mentioned, we will be having the Northern California Golf, Turf, and Water Summit on December 7th here at Boundary Oak Golf Course in Walnut Creek. Our registration will be out soon, so be sure to sign up. Again, it was an incredible day and certainly very valuable, as Craig mentioned, as we've moved from the pandemic to a quote unquote land grab, and now we move into the water issues, which are always going to be there. So Craig, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been just a tremendous Friday. So we'll start to wind down a little bit and turn it back to our friend and colleague, Mr. Tom Addis. Tom?
Thanks, Len. Thanks, Craig. And of course, Jim and Shelly for your wonderful story. We appreciate everyone's time and those of you who are with us listening in this morning, excuse me. Our next chat will be on Friday, October 7th. We're looking forward to that. And at this point, we'll still continue with the the once per month. And we'll see where that goes through the rest of this year. So everybody have a great weekend and stay cool. I guess it's warmer in Northern California than it is down here in Southern California right now. So, and hopefully we'll get that storm passed through and won't be too damaging to anybody. So again, thank you for being here. And Len, thanks again. And Bryce and Steve and everybody, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Jim, for your time and then again leading us these past couple of years and in a very direct sense of being a president, but that will continue as well. We're very grateful, Shelly, for joining us today and sharing so much of your story, some of it very, very personal. And Craig, of course, for keeping us going. Our on-air team, as Tom mentioned, and a couple of shout outs to the Northern California section, the Southern California section, having the PGA Junior League Regional Championship was just held Labor Day weekend at Wailea. And thanks to Executive Director Wes Wailehua for hosting, and of course, National Car Rental for their sponsorship of the Junior League program. So the shout out to Redwood Empire for winning the 17U division. That's 2 years in a row. And the word on the street is there may be a 17U national champion beginning next year. So shout out to the Redwood Empire team, and then shout out Tom to Team San Diego once again.
I thought we'd mentioned it earlier, but we hadn't. So congratulations to John Mason and his team from San Diego North County. So making another appearance at the Nationals and having won a few years ago. Congratulations.
Yeah, well done, everybody. Well done. And with that, everyone have a great weekend. Keep looking out for each other. As we've mentioned, we've got the Water Summit December 7th. Please put that on your calendar for all the Northern Californians on the call. That would be right after our annual meeting at Green Valley. So I'll look forward to seeing you on both days. Okay, thanks, everybody. Be safe. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks.